Hi, welcome back to another episode of Coldstream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. In this week's video, we are going to start doing a little bit of work on Ellie's coupe. We were missing the firewall gasket in order to start the initial stages of working on it, so I didn't really do anything. There's a couple repairs we need to make to the firewall, as well as weld up a whole bunch of holes here. In the previous episode, you probably saw that I put some blue masking tape here for the holes that Brian wants us to fill up for this coupe. Going to make a repair to the bottom of the firewall foot as well. I've done that before. It's really not that big of a deal. So that's kind of where we are with that. And like I said, we'll try and get rolling on it. There's still a few more things left on Brenda's Roadster to do, but they're small things. And then over here, there's a cowl vent for which we have a cover. And we have some of the parts, but it's missing this sheet metal piece here. Sure, we can buy it, but also I'm quite sure I can make it. So what I'm going to try and do is make one of these. I will do my best to show you how I lay it out and how I make it with some time lapse and stuff. But in theory, it should be a relatively straightforward thing to make. Can take all the dimensions off of this. We've also got a couple others I can double check against over in the other garage, but I think I'm going to start off making this piece. Part of today's project is going to make this sheet metal piece for the cowl vent. I'm missing one for one of the cowl vents here, so I just decided, like some folks have asked me, to show a little bit more of what I do instead of show and tell, so decided to start fabricating this little piece. It's a straightforward piece to make. So the cowl vent goes on the car like this, and it would hook onto a hinge and go up and down. So it's kind of like a deflector on the bottom of the cowl vent. Again, can buy one of them, but the cost to get it here and everything else, like I've said many times before, is a little excessive right now, especially with the exchange rate and potential tariffs and stuff. It'll probably take me about an hour to make this up, and so I'm going to be like well under what it would cost to buy a reproduction one. So anyways, follow along here and I will step you through how I make this. So far what I did, I took the original cowl vent and support for underneath it. I transferred that onto a piece of paper, took all the measurements that I think I'm going to need, and then I transferred that over onto a piece of sheet metal. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put the time lapse on. I'm going to cut this out. I still have to mark out where the bead is. So I'll cut all the pieces off, all the extras off. We're going to run the bead. And then this edge here, I'm going to have to tip it up. So more than likely this will be tipped, and both of those will have to be tipped because you can't put them on the brake. It's not a straight line. This edge here where it folds up, we can put that on the brake, and we can put this on the brake, and then this edge on the back, which is this one here, we can put that on the brake. So one here, and one there, and the rest of it we're putting it on the bead roller to tip it. So follow along. Gonna try to make this in one go, not screw it up. So there's the piece I made and the original in behind it. As you notice in a time lapse, I did use the tipping dies to tip the edge up to start it, but ultimately had to improvise, use the vise, use the bench to basically bend the edges over the way we needed them. Just use whatever you can to get the shape that you want. There's nothing wrong with using the edge of your metal desk, use your vise, use a hammer, use a dolly, use whatever you need to get the shape. If you bend it too far, bend it back. The thing is with this, you also probably notice this edge here has an arc to it. So when we bent it over, I then had to go over to the shrinker to basically straighten it back out. So as you're bending stuff, if you bend stuff along a straight line, it usually stays straight. If you bend it along a curved line, it bends. So, adjust. So I think that's going to do the trick. Basically now just have to figure out and mark it where it has to go on the cowl vent cover. And then more than likely, I think another gentleman's kind of come pick this up, but more than likely what will be done is we would punch some holes in there and basically do an imitation spot weld onto it. So that's the extra piece for the cowl vent. Well, today was a pretty nice day outside, so I was able to take the parts out for the camera lady's Y block. I took them outside and spray bombed them, and then once they dried up, I just brought them back inside here. I'm just going to let them sit for the next 24 to 48 hours before I touch them. Paint seems to have hardened up really good, but I just want to just leave it just in case before we start messing with it. And then from the last week's video, I finished off the last of the 32 Ford trunk drains there. The firewall gasket finally came in for Ellie's coupe there. So we got those. We've got some firewall feet. And then over here, finally was able to drag the rotisseries into the garage here. Right there, which we are going to ultimately use those to mount the camera lady's frame, which is up on its edge right there. And at some point in time, change these curtains bigger so that we can actually spray that. So it's starting to warm up here. I would hope that in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, we should be able to paint her frame. We picked out a color, but we're not going to tell anybody until we actually spray it. But next up, I've got Ellie's Coupe's firewall here. All the stuff is marked out onto it, like I said last week, which I didn't get to do it, and I said at the beginning of this video, I'm going to make the repairs to this. I also saw that there's a few pinholes here and there, which I'm going to have to make repairs to. A few cracks along the bottom, and I think these cracks are quite normal stress cracks, but we're going to V them out and weld them up and clean the firewall all up here, make a little piece of the bottom of the bracket here, again crack there, but I'll go through all that. I'll try and set the time lapse up as I'm going through that so that you can see what I'm doing. So anyway, off to the firewall. So there we are. The goal was not to actually weld up all of the holes in the firewall. He wanted some of them left open, ultimately for some wiring. He'll put some plastic plugs in the other one later. Wanted to keep the original holes here for the dash because he's got a 32 dash tunnel. One thing, I'm not sure if you could see it or not, but what I was doing most of the time was holding this large piece of copper behind the weld when I was welding the holes up. My process most of the time for welding the holes up is just basically to start along the edge and work your way around and just basically continue to circle and fill it in. You can cut circles up with a sheet metal, weld them in, probably get a little bit less distortion, but as I work my way in, I'm going to grind these and dolly them out flat. It's been effective for me. Maybe others have a different opinion, but anyways, we're going to get all these welded up. I do have to cut another piece here to fill in the foot, so I'm going to make that repair before I start grinding all these welds flat. So that's all the repairs I'm going to do to the firewall for now, unless I find something else. The feet have been repaired. I've drilled the new hole there for the feet. That side actually was cracked here. I missed that the first time through, so I fixed that up. And I kind of went over the firewall a little bit, ground down the welds from both sides, and then in most cases it was actually quite flat, but I actually had two holes that they must have heated up and bubbled up too much. Anyway, hammered and dollied those out. Went over it a little bit with the 3M discs and some of the smaller to harder to reach areas. I didn't do that on time-lapse. And then the little belt sander got into a couple places. Then I had to resort to using the rotary file to get up inside some of these places here and clean them out where we had to fill up some of those pinholes I showed you. So right now I'm going to take that firewall, mount it over on the frame, screw it in place. I do have the cowl gasket. I will probably trial fit that. The next step for this would be to start cutting out some of the original sub rails. There's bits and pieces of it up inside of the coupe, to clean that out, to then prepare it to slide it on over the firewall. In the meantime, though, at the beginning of the episode, I made the, I guess, the baffle for the back of the cowl. I've since realized now I need to make another one of these tops, so I'm going to attempt making one of these. It shouldn't be overly complicated. However, the top is crowned quite a bit, so we're going to have to either put it on the English wheel or the planishing hammer to get the shape. And then all the way around this edge here, it's turned up. So my thought process to making this is to cut out some 1/4-inch steel plate, the same shape as the inside of this, one for each side, sandwich it between the 2 steel plates, and then dolly this edge over. Once the edge is dollied over and I've got the right shape, then I think what I'm going to do is then get it on the planishing hammer. We'll probably, to get the crown to it, we may have to do some physical manipulation too, because when you dolly this edge over, you're going to create some rigidity in the panel. So anyways, I'm going to do my best to set up the time lapse to make this panel and show you how I make it. And anyway, follow along. So here's the cowl top that I want to try and make. It's this piece here. As you can see, it's got a little bit of a crown to it. It's bent. Some of it, like I said, we can accomplish by physically bending, and the rest of it, you know, we can do on a planishing hammer, or I don't think it's going to fit on the English wheel because we're going to have a lip on it. I want to put the lip on first. So what I've done, I measured the inside measurement of this top from inside here to there and then all the way around, so that in theory this 3/16 inch plate would fit into that if I didn't have this piece on it. So what my plan is right now, I had considered making like a 2-piece plate, drilling 2 holes into it and a hole on the top and the bottom for alignment, and then you'd sandwich it between the 2 and just knock the edges over. What I'm going to try and do, I'm going to take, this is 18 gauge sheet metal. I've cut a couple blanks up. I've allowed, this lip is 3/16 of an inch. I've allowed a 1/4 inch here with the intention of bending a 1/4 up and then dressing it down to the 3/16 when I'm done. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stick this on the side here of my metal bench. I'm going to put this on top of it, and then I'm going to put some clamps onto it and then use my hammer, my nylon hammer, to knock the edge up all the way around. So this should work. I mean, it's a possibility that this is going to slide if I hit it too hard. I should be able to see if that happens or not. Like I said, another technique is to prevent it from moving at all is actually to drill holes through everything, and then you've got pins holding it in place. But I think if I put the clamps on tight enough, we're not rolling a really big edge up over here. I should be able to make this happen. So I really thought I was going to have to put this top either on a planishing hammer to create a crown this way, or in the English wheel to put something to it. But as you can see, hopefully you can see from the time lapse, when I set up a ruler against this surface, it's perfectly flat. The only arc is this way. So I guess I thought about it for a couple seconds, and there's no sense making it more complicated than you have to. So I just took this, as you saw, and I just gently, incrementally put pressure on it across the steel bench here until I have a little arch into it. It literally was as simple as that. And then, like as you saw from the time lapse, again, hopefully, I use 3/16 inch plate right there, which is actually the depth of this. So when I rolled the material up, I clamped it down and I just basically dressed everything flush with that 3/16 plate, which gave me the 3/16 lip I wanted all the way around here. So now if I take this over to the 5-window coupe, it should fit normally. And it does, actually. Very happy. Usually things don't go this smoothly. I've got to do it a couple times, but I guess I'm on a roll. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to punch a couple holes into this, and then I will put that piece, I'll spot weld it to the back of this. That's it for this week on Coldstream Rod Shop. In this week's episode, we made a cowl vent plus the deflector on the bottom for Brian's coupe or Ellie's coupe. Kind of keep calling it the same thing, but and also made all the repairs to the firewall, filled all the holes in, fixed the cracks, fixed the bottom of the feet. I did get the cowl gasket. We've got the cowl gasket installed, and the firewall bolted to the frame right now. It's ready to start positioning the body in, but I can't really do anything more because there's lots of pieces of the old subrail still attached to the inside of the body. I can't finish that this week, so we're going to have to start working on that next week. But made some progress finally. Hopefully you enjoyed me making the cowl vent. It's not really all that hard to do. Try it yourself. It's really not that hard. So anyways, that's it. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe. Send me your comments, and come on back next week to Coldstream Rod Shop.